I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Piner is going to be a few minutes late, so we're going to start without him. We got a quorum up here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So it may look like the board is a little bit too far to my right tonight, but they'll be here shortly. I want to welcome everyone to Day 14. Day 14 of the new Team Elkton. And we want to start off with approval of the minutes of June 4th, 2014.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the June 4th meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the minutes?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Minutes carry. Financial report. Do we have a motion to approve the financial report and pay the bills?
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussion. I got quite a bit of discussion. And I want to ask a few questions just to bring myself up to date and hopefully Commissioner Van Reenen and Steve, I guess I'll address them to you if I could. And I just want to know who maybe some of these vendors are so I can get a little bit better understanding.
All right.
Okay, we have Crown Point Technologies. Who are they?
I looked that up this morning. I looked at the actual invoice.
No, what was that in regards to? Okay. All right, very good.
Mr. Mayor, could these people over here on the right speak into the microphone?
Very good. I'll do that there, Commissioner Stork.
Who's ever speaking? We just pull that right because they can't hear.
Yeah, we'll do that. We are live over there. Well, I got a couple seconds. I want to recognize, I mentioned Commissioner Stork's in the audience tonight. We also have Mayor Kraus is in the back here also, and we have Commissioner Hicks, who we're going to recognize here very shortly. And I also saw Chief Ryan was also in here this evening, and certainly appreciate everyone for coming. Hopefully I didn't miss any former elected officials.
I'm sorry, Crown Point Technology is something the police department uses. We use that to report training to the training commission.
Very good. Just wanted to know how they fit in. Thank you. Cody Computer Services.
It's also the police department as a records management system.
Very good. So just to help me understand, so Cody would be someone other than Divine Computing for us?
That's correct, yes.
And Divine is our IT people?
Personally, that's correct. And he has a couple people that work with him.
Okay.
Mike Devine is the our IT person.
Okay, and I saw we had a payment out to the National Safety Council. Was that?
That's probably also us, and that's for CPR training materials.
Very good. And
Our officers is going to be training Parks and Rec personnel in CPR in the coming weeks.
Very good. One of the items that I want to promote as we get through the next several years is to really stress to promote local, buy local. And I see one on here, Atlantic Sun Screen Printing. Are they a local company? Or are they, I'm assuming that's probably for Parks and Rec. I'm not 100%.
That'll be correct.
Very Newark.
Newark, Delaware.
Oh, very good.
Very good. Thank you, Mary. If we could, if there's Elkton companies that can do that, I'd love to see if we can get some competitive pricing from town of Elkton people. Bradley Electric Service, in regards to, I don't know who Bradley Electric is. Anyone know?
They have it, but they're project up. Where are they?
No, what were they here for?
Where is it?
I'm assuming a public works issue.
Absolutely.
Install the lighting?
At Parks and Rec, the LED. I believe they were over there switching out the lighting for the LED upgrades that we did.
Very good. Hopefully,
We have an arrangement with the American Energy Corporation for LED updates of the Parks and Rec building, this building, and the Department of Public Works, and Bradley is their vendor installing that on the, with that bill, or the,
and
for something else.
And Steve, probably to your defense, I'm looking at a financial statement probably from last,
I don't have any of those. You
yes.
see them.
So I'm hitting you with ones that you don't have because this was previous, and I do apologize for that. AVAYA, Avaya, who are they? Anyone?
They do the phone systems out at.
Phone system?
Phone system, that's right, just Avaya.
All right, very good. So now I'll get to the current one.
Okay.
ComPlus Data Innovations.
They're the vendor that handles all of our parking tickets. We use their system. They're the ones that track it. We use their software, and when the payments are made against parking tickets, they go through their system. Their fee is 15.5% of all the collections. They also generate and mail letters to delinquent ticket holders, parking ticket holders.
And of course, the next one, I'll come back to that, but I will have a question about Artesian, because I want to understand what our agreement is with Artesian. Maybe, Louis, you can tell me, but I'll come.
We have a contract with them, it extends to 2019 now.
2019.
We buy a minimum of 250,000 gallons a day with a max of 1.5 million. And that's our backup water supply for our water treatment plant.
Very good. So I didn't have to come back to that one. There was a supplier here, Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks.
That's the current register? That's the current check register?
Very good. You don't have to go any further.
No, no, that's the current, I mean.
Yes.
Oh, yes, it is the current. Yes, yes, it is.
Hard Knocks, that was a rebate on their business personal tax. They filed an amended return. We had already collected a greater amount of the original return, so as they filed an amended return with the State of Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation, they would do a refund.
Very good.
There's
And-
a number of corporations and LLCs in there that we're paying money to that were abated by the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation. The taxes were abated and they paid us, so we have to pay them back the difference.
Thank you. I just want to try to get myself up to speed a little bit. I'm sorry if I bored anyone. Any other questions in regards to the financial report? No. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Well, I'd like to invite Commissioner Hicks up. Commissioner Hicks served the town of Elkton for 4 years and did a fantastic job, and we'd like to recognize Commissioner Hicks with an award tonight. Come down here, guys. You want to go down to the floor with me? All right. Let's get down here in the middle. I found out the video, we have to be in the middle here a little bit, Commissioner. I'd like to make this presentation from the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Elkton to Charles E. Hicks V. Be it known that on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and the citizens of Elkton, in recognition of his commitment to public service, serving his fellow citizens for 4 years as a valued member of the Board of Commissioners from June 2nd, 2010 to June 4th, 2014. Therefore, we hereby formally extend our appreciation to Commissioner Hicks, along with the certificate of recognition for public service.
Thank you very much.
Hang on. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Charles. I'm a little blind. I'd like to invite up Matt Donnelly. Matt Donnelly has been serving as the acting police chief for the town of Elkton for a period of time, I think for
Since January 12th, 2013.
there you go. Well over a year and almost a year and a half, and I'm certainly proud. And on behalf of the town of Elkton, I'm going to give him the oath of office. Matt, if you'd hold up your right hand, I don't have a Bible, you can put it on there, I guess.
Take his word for it.
We will, we will. I, Matthew J. Donnelly,
I, Matthew J. Donnelly,
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Chief of Police
execute the office of Chief of Police
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
Glad to have you on board, Chief. Okay, we'll take a couple photos afterward, and I'll sign them in a little bit. Thank you very much, Chief. Thanks. Well, we're moving right along here. Lou, you have your report, the town administrator's report. I think he wants to talk about a possible speed hump installation request on Curtis Alley.
Yes, on April 22nd, can you hear me?
Now,
April 22nd, we received a request for speed humps on Curtis Alley. This is the road that runs parallel to West Main Street, between West Main Street and Curtis Avenue. And as a result of that, we sent out a citizen survey to the residents of West Main Street and Curtis Alley that abut that alley, and for their opinions. We received 10 responses, 10 all favorable to the installation of speed humps. Consequently, I'm recommending that we install 2 speed humps on that alley. We'll do the work ourselves. We just have to purchase hot mix asphalt, and we'll put up the signs and the markings and everything ourselves. Our public works will do it. So the cost will probably be around $500 to $750 roughly. So that's not a very expensive thing because it's a very narrow alley, but it's a traffic calming technique that we'll use and help hopefully improve the safety along that street. They're worried about the children who play out there, and of course cars travel up and down. So I'm sure this will enhance the public safety on that street, but I need more authorization to proceed.
Very good. Is there any questions concerning Curtis Alley? I actually went out there the other day and took a look at it, and I have to say, at one time I lived at 334 West Main Street, and I know that even back then there was a lot of heavy traffic through there, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a young person hit many years ago. Or maybe it wasn't, I'm trying to think exactly when it was. But I know that there was someone, there was an accident back here with being struck by a car. Charlie, any comments?
No, I'm in favor.
I'm in favor. I just have a question. Can everybody hear me? Sorry, I talk fairly softly. I have speed bumps in my neighborhood also, but they're straight across, and I drove the same alley. My concern is installing the speed bumps instead of straight across to have the diagonal. Has that ever been anything that anybody's ever looked into? Because I know in my neighborhood, they get used to it at a certain speed and they still fly.
I'm sorry, what?
Installing the speed humps at a diagonal instead of straight across.
I
It
don't
unsettles
know.
the car a lot more.
We
than
follow a
straight across.
standard prepared by our engineer, and they're perpendicular. I don't know about I don't know a diagonal standard, but we can look into the possibility of doing that. I understand where you're coming from, because at that angle, you have a different impression,
Yes.
impact on a vehicle than we do that.
And
This
even-
is a speed hump. Speed
Right.
hump has a arc length of approximately 6 feet.
Correct.
So it's not a compressed piece, so you actually hit it. You've been out to, they're all over town, so you.
I have one in my neighborhood. I have the hump in my, I have two
We'll
of them.
look into a diagonal one, but the standard spec is actually is perpendicular.
I would agree. I think you're right on target with that. I think that that would be something to investigate. Do you need a motion to move forward?
Well, if you want, I could wait and look into a diagonal design and see if that's feasible, or I can get a design like that and I can come back. But regardless, if I can't find it, the board still needs to authorize me.
I'm in favor.
Yeah, I'd say let's move forward as we go, and we're going to, you're going to get us some language back on the diagonal, but let's move forward on those speed bumps. So I'd like to have a motion to proceed onto Curtis Alley.
So move.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Any old business? I don't think there is any old business from last week, was there?
No, there's-
Okay, so I'm going to move right on to my report. And of course, I'm kind of lengthy, and I think Commissioner Van Reenen will be fairly lengthy, and I'm sure Charlie will have a lot to add to this.
yes, sir.
Talking a little bit about old business, it's going to be kind of my expectations as we move forward, that if we bring up some items here, I'd like to see it brought back and addressed to the board, maybe in a fairly timely fashion, maybe if within 30 days, I think would give us enough time. Doesn't have to be at the very next meeting, but I'd like to try to wipe it out as quickly as we can as we're moving forward. I think a lot of times we put old business and we don't hear anything back about the old business for months to come. So it's my goal, and I hope the board can support that. Let's try to move through it. If we got old business, let's move through it and make some positive moves forward. The one thing that I addressed during the campaigning during the election was water and sewer. And I'm committed, and I know that staff is committed to help us find a way that we can make some cuts in the water and sewer bill. I know that I've spoke to our staff that's involved with this, and they are looking at ways that we can do it. And I feel pretty comfortably that I'll be able to bring a proposal back to the town board that we're going to be able to cut the rates. And I'll need the support of the board to make those things happen, but I feel pretty comfortable that staff is going to give me a nice proposal to bring back to the group. So thumbs up on water and sewer issues. I think they're going to go down. That's of course our goal, and I think everyone's working hard to have that happen. Last week we were at the Maryland Municipal League annual convention, and I happened to be with Commissioner Givens and Commissioner Piner, and we were walking through the exhibits, and there was a exhibitor which I knew a little bit about, but we went over and we met with them, and it's in regards to a Standard Solar is the name of the company that would put a solar panel farm in areas of the town that would help us reduce our electricity rates anywhere from 20 to 25%. And depending on how much land we can do as a soft cost for it, but it's something that Commissioner Givens and Commissioner Piner and I met with them, and I've asked Michelle to go ahead and make, I think he's going to be on the agenda on,
It's July 2nd or July.
yeah, I think it's the second meeting in July that he'll actually be here, so if anyone has any interest in coming to listen to this. But my understanding, if the town of Elkton can provide the land, and quite frankly, my thinking was between the wastewater treatment plant and Landing Lane, but I know that we've talked about doing other things there in the past, but I know we have over 6 acres there, and this would, I feel pretty comfortable to tell you that the county, Cecil County School Board is moving with this company to do Bayview Elementary School behind the old School of Technology, or behind the School of Technology, and they're taking 10 acres, and their projections right now are close to $100,000 a year savings to the school board. And over the 20-year life, that's over $2 million. And I confirmed that last week with a meeting that I had with Perry Willis and Vince Carabello and Diet Devine. So we discussed that, and they confirmed it, and they're looking at many areas throughout the school that they can put these solar panel farms in. And it's something that I would be very supportive of. So hopefully, we need your input on that day when he comes in here. Maybe there's some things that I'm missing, but my understanding, it's literally zero cost to the town. We have some soft costs with, of course, the cost of the land, and I think there's a connection cost to three-phase power. But he's a sales guy. He was trying to sell us while we were there, so he may have told us anything we wanted to hear. So we're going to be the judge when he gets here. Louis, I saw a memo that went out that we were going to move forward in the Buttonwoods neighborhood of taking those grassy islands that the cars park up to, where we really can't mow the grass because they park so close to them. And when we do, we have quite a few calls from our stones and rocks hitting the owners of the property's cars. I thought it was a great solution. We're looking at actually maybe concreting over some of those islands. Maybe we can look at maybe putting some type of planter or a tree to kind of maybe give it a little bit better look. But I think it's right on the right way. It's an area we won't have to mow anymore, and I can tell you in the long run, it's going to save the town a tremendous amount of money. And I think during the campaign I saw it, and there was a lot of complaints in the Buttonwoods neighborhood. But I see throughout the town we got a lot of little small patches that maybe we can think outside the box and think of ways that we can save long-term costs with that.
And for your information, Buttonwoods had a lot of problems out there parking, and we provided satellite parking for them. Every now and then they still come in with that issue, but they don't have a tenant association, so I think they actually understand that first come, first serve.
Very good. I met with Dan, our Public Works Director, last week, and I know that DJ did also. And one of the things that came up to me, and I know that the town board discussed this a while back, was grass clippings. And grass clippings, the more that I educated myself on maybe the wrong grass, I'm going to say, but I educated grass clippings, and more and more municipalities, they really don't want the grass clippings on the street. And I'm trying to digest this, and I'm looking for feedback from the community when we talk about this. But I'd like to schedule that meeting with Waste Management to come in, and I think you've got that scheduled. You've got them scheduled to come in to talk to the board maybe about this. And what I'm finding is we are dumping the grass clippings. The town of Elkton is picking up your grass clippings, or picking up all of our grass clippings, and we have to pay, I think it's $125 a ton to get these disposed of. It's not like we're just taking them somewhere and hide them in the corner. We actually got to pay to dump it, just like regular trash. And I'd like to try to, at some point, encourage us all to use like a mulching style mower, and maybe let's start a grass cycle campaign of some sort to encourage everyone to recycle their grass clippings. And I can tell you, the amount of money it could save the town of Elkton is going to be astronomical. And maybe in the short term we don't do that, but I'd like to try to figure out a way we can not put the clippings on the street. Maybe we provide the residents with another container that it can be picked up in the regular trash. I don't know exactly how we can do it. So I'm just throwing that out there. They're going to be in here to talk to us here in the near future. And but I think it's something that I'd love to have everyone here to listen to. Along the lines of the grass clippings, it's my understanding that when we see a residence or a business that is allowed their grass to grow up above our building code levels, we send them a notice, when we send them that notice, they have how many days to perform, or we go out to cut it?
14, I believe.
14 days.
I think it's 14.
What the Director of Public Works was stating to me is that what we have to do at that point to get that residence mode or that business mode is that he has to take people off of our grass crew and or our water and sewer crew, and we have to take them and send them to go mow that lawn. I would like to see us investigate using local landscapers or grass cutters to handle that. And I know of at least 2 local grass cutters here in the town of Elkton that I'd love to see. They're paying taxes in the town of Elkton. I'd love to give them an opportunity to quote on that. But I'm sure that there's more than 2. There's probably 10 or 15 contractors out there. But I think that if we could consider that, and that's something that, and maybe it's been thought of before or done before, and there's a reason why we can't do it, but I think that maybe there's something we want to look into, and maybe with the help of Public Works, they can come up with some type of plan that would tell us how we can make that happen. Because I think it would be as simple as you get your approved vendors on the list, and you just alternate them like we do the same thing with, I think we used to do it with towing cars in the town of Elkton. And if you have 2 or 3 guys, it's this day, it's this customer, you tell them to go out and get the grass mowed, and you pay them a set fee that's been agreed upon.
As we backtrack on that information, Lois, whatever happened to the grass cutting crew that we always had available during the summer? Evidently what?
We have seasonal workers.
Yeah, he told me that he had hired a few seasonal workers, but he also stated that he felt that he might be 10 or 11 people short down there. And I think that's something that we got to look at here shortly too, Charlie. I agree with you. So that was that part of it. Just to keep the board informed, I met with Lisa Webb with the Department of Economic Development for the county last week, and I thought it was a great meeting, but I think it's something that she actually complimented our chamber, our alliance on a lot of the programs that they're doing, but she said that we could certainly be doing more, but that's going to be my responsibility. I'm going to get a little bit more active in that for the town. Today, I actually met with Chris Locke with the Lang Development Group, and anyone that knows the Lang Development Group, they are the ones that control pretty much all the development in downtown Newark. They look at, hey!
So,
Come on up here, Commissioner Kleiner. I've been trying to hold off the whole time for you.
Sorry, apologize for traffic jam.
Do I have a meeting a motion to adjourn?
So be it.
Well, we had, but Chris Locke is I met with Chris Locke from Lang Development Corporation, and they have some interest of taking a look at Elkton. They have a lot of contacts. As you walk down downtown Newark, you'll see a lot of smaller businesses that may be encouraged to come this way. So we as a group, once again, we have to support our downtown if these things start to happen. During my meeting with Perry Willis, we had a little bit of discussion about the future of Gilpin Manor School. He actually stated that it's kind of in the pre-planning stages, but the goal is to move the Gilpin Manor closer to the library, and by being closer to the library, they would have joint parking with the library, which would create a better scenario when you go in and out of that library. And I think it's something that we want to make sure that we're all on the same page as this starts to get developed. He certainly invited us to those meetings, but since we're all here in town together, if you have any questions or comments as they start to do that planning, now's the time to be involved in that project. This morning, myself and DJ, we had our sensitivity training for the town of Elkton, and Louis George and Chief Donnelly and Joe Zarillo and Gene Minner. There was a whole group of us here this morning, and so hopefully I'll be more sensitive to some issues if anyone asks. But it was a very enlightening meeting this morning, and it's something that we do take serious in the town of Elkton, and it was very rewarding for me, and I felt that the presentator did a very nice job today.
And you are aware that there's others in the, on the staff that's mandated to take that?
Yes.
Including myself, Piner, and a whole bunch of others.
And that happened, well, we were obligated to do it.
We're obligated, yeah.
And I was happy to do it.
That's
I was
good.
actually happy to do it. I'm almost done. I got a little bit more. One thing that I'd like for us to take a look at as a team, and I think moving forward, we have to take a look at our charter of the town of Elkton. Our charter was we went through it in 1996, and I can tell you I was actually on the board in 1996 when we went through the town charter back then. But as the years go on, there's a lot of changes that need to be done. And one of the things that was really brought up to me during the election process was that we really don't have a tremendous amount of teeth in our election process here in the town of Elkton, even though it really hasn't been maybe a major issue over the years. But I think that those are things, the election process, we need to review. I know that prior to coming on board, maybe 3 or 4 months prior, there was some discussion about possibly even changing the date of the town election to try to get more people out. Louis George and I attended a seminar at Maryland Municipal League, and it was actually about election law and election dates. And one of the things that came out of it was that we can try to run our election date the same time as the county primary or the county election, but it would have to be okayed by the county, and in most cases the counties don't allow that to happen. In some cases they do, but if we wanted to go that process, that's something that we could ask the county to see if that's something we wanted to do. But I thought it was a very a good meeting that we attended, but I just want to stress, I think maybe we can look at some dates, maybe during the winter time, to start to do this recodification. There's a lot of things I think we need to review. I asked you earlier about the artesian contract. I wanted to know what the date of that was. How long are we committed with Severn Trent?
2023.
2023. And our waste management contract?
This is the last year coming up.
Yeah, 15, early 15.
We're in our last year, so that's something that we that'll be good that they're coming in. We can start to maybe work on discussing about that. We have, the town of Elkton has a $11.5 million budget. We probably, out of that, we may be purchasing, I don't know, several hundred thousand, if not millions of dollars worth of product. I think at some point, I'd like to ask the team here if we should consider budgeting for like a purchasing agent. And I say that respectfully. I think it would be, currently right now, I think the way the process works in the town, the department heads go out and get 3 bids. They kind of bring them to the table. We put it in the budget process, and we kind of buy. I know that we do our due diligence when we do that, but I almost think that that's something that we could probably, could be a possibility to have a little bit better control of. So I'd like to ask the board to consider that, think about it. We don't need any decisions today or tomorrow, but I think that's something moving forward I want you to think about a little bit.
And certainly, if you have a purchasing agent, it certainly would help you when you go through the budgeting process each year. That would make it simple.
It would. And I guess the last thing that I have, and I promise this is the last thing, we had, and I can only go back to when I served the first time as my little bit of experience. And Lou, we had, of course, you were the town administrator, and I had our executive secretary was Rachel Henderson, and I would ask Rachel. I'm not sure if the roles have changed any from Michelle, from when it was Rachel before, but I guess what I'm asking is, when in your absence, if I need to ask a question to, I'm on the phone and this board needs to find out whether it's a financial question or a personnel question, do you want us to go directly to the source, or should we go right to Michelle and let her handle that? And if it's Michelle, I think that we need to adjust her role so everyone understands that when in your absence, we're able to get that information.
I think a best approach to that would be to go to Michelle, because when she creates an answer, she
They can't hear you,
all board
Louis.
members.
They can't hear you. Speaking to the mic, please.
When Michelle was the contact person for the board in my absence, Michelle would obviously create or determine what the answer would be and distribute that answer to all board members.
Mhm.
So when any one board member asked a question, the answer would go to all board members so that everybody on Team Elkton would be aware
Yes.
of what's going on, the question and the answer.
And I'm very good, and I'm not sure if the team here is looking at that direction. And maybe you guys feel pretty comfortable. I'm just looking at for DJ and myself, if we had a question in Lewis's absence. I feel very comfortable with that.
Well, since the times I've served, Michelle has been knowledgeable of all the actions been taken from the administrator position, and she has been on top of her game when it comes down to answering questions. And if she didn't have the answer, she would find it and know exactly the sources to get it from. So, you know, there hasn't been any change with worrying whether or not the administrator was here or not. She was capable of getting the answers for us and distributing it to everyone.
Very good. Does there need to be a change in the description of the title, or not the title, but description of her job description? And maybe this is something that should be talked about in a closed meeting, I don't know, but
Well, it's not necessarily an issue for a closed meeting, but I think that we have to tweak her job description and look at, various variables, whatever, with respect to those responsibilities.
very good.
I'll come back with recommendations.
Very good. Okay, and I'm very positive in that. I mean, I really think that, just wanted to make it very clear.
Just for the record, we tried to make our approach for a town administrative assistance, and for the record, when we disposed of that position, Michelle was capable of fulfilling all the needs for that position, and we hadn't had problems with the replacement
Very good.
not being put there.
And I did have one more thing, Earl, before I turn it over. I asked Michelle for the list of boards and committees that are vacant, and I can see that we have 2 vacancies. And I'm not asking the town to vote on anyone tonight, but I think that if anyone board member, I think the way you've been doing it is, if there's anyone that you have any interest in serving on the boards, bring it to the table and let's take a look at the names, and then we're going to make a motion and discuss and vote.
It actually hasn't been the board, it was always brought by the mayor, and we did second. So if that's the option that you are extending, that's well.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I'd like to have the whole team's input on people to serve on the board. There's 2 openings right now. There's one opening for the Board of Zoning Appeals, and there's also a opening on the Historic District Commission. And I do have a person in mind for the Historic District Commission. And I could bring her name up tonight if I could move forward getting support, unless you need to know more about her. But the person I'm considering is, I'd like to have nominated is Brittany Swartz. Brittany's a young lady that lives in downtown Elkton, and I think that she would do a great job of being on the Historic District Commission. And
Have you had conversations?
yes, she absolutely would like to serve, has a lot of interest, and would love to be on board.
You make a motion to appoint her. What happens?
Well, very good. We got a motion to appoint her, a second. Any discussion about Brittany Swartz?
Just 1 second.
Yes.
Shouldn't, I don't even know her.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we open it up to at least put it out there for a little while to see who else would like to do that? This way we have names in the coffer, if you will, for future events.
I'm certainly happy to do
And
that.
then how do we post things like that? Do we post it to our website?
Website.
And then just word of mouth, and then they contact you, or they contact Michelle?
Or Michelle.
All right.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor, and I'd like to move forward with it. All in favor? Aye. So Brittany Swartz, Elkton, Maryland, be on the Historic District Commission, and we do have an opening for the Board of Zoning Appeals, and believe me, if anyone has any interest in that position, please get us your name and information, and we'd love to get you on board. All right, Earl Piner, Commissioner Piner, the floor is yours.
Again, I apologize for being late. I really don't have any old business to discuss, but I contacted the chief about some issues that was going on in the town. I have some guests that I asked to come and let them go and speak on it, so I won't even touch that right now. So, but I always would like to thank all the citizens who bring up the issues with any safety issues such as potholes and gutters that are not covered. I mean, there were several people that came to me about certain issues on certain streets, and thanks to Public Works, they took care of it within the 2 to 3 hour time frame. Anything that's dealing with safety, please feel free to contact either the office or one of the town administration staff, and we'll look into it and try to get it done as quick as possible, because safety is a key area for me, as well as I know the rest of the board. Other than that, I would like to make a special thanks to the public work crew for the effort they're making for the weekend pickups for the grass and brush and everything. They look like they're really trying to pull together and make things happen as we ask things to take place. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gibbons?
I would like your approval on the following. Rights Aiming Church Outreach Ministry would like to block Bethel Street off from 12 to 4 on August the 16th. I believe that's on a Saturday. This has been done before. All we need is 2 barrier and your approval.
I'd like to, do we need to make a motion on it? Phyllis, is that something we make a motion on, or just make it happen?
To close a public road, you can do that, or you can just tell me to take care of it.
Well, we've told Lois before to take care of it. It's your option.
All right, well, I'm going to tell you, it's done. Take care of it, Lewis, and happy to help.
Right, and
You'll coordinate that with the chief.
talked with a lady, I guess she came in yesterday, she had a concern, I guess her neighbor has a number of cats, probably like 10, 11, 12, 13. But I called an agency today, and certainly Cecil County, well, Elkton or Cecil County does allow you to have that amount, but it's different when it comes to dogs. You're limited to the number of dogs you can have. So I'll get back to her and let her know that, you know, there's no way in the world we can help. The only thing he did suggest, basically, is for her to put some type of orange rinds around the property, because cats don't like those. So, you know, I'll give it my best effort in trying to satisfy her need.
Okay. I'd like to say something about cats. If we
Go ahead.
You just bought it.
Last night, and as well as earlier today, I ran into Mrs. Clark on North Street, and she brought up to my attention. I really, she caught me by surprise, and I'm really not sure, quite frankly, where this is leading or what she was actually asking me, but she said that she's been feeding cats at the Holly Hall property at the Big Elk Mall. And she heard that the mayor of the town of Elkton was going to put a big fence around the Holly Hall property and not allow her to, I guess, feed the cats. I'm not sure. I'm still a little confused where that may have came from. But I guess I'd like for us, Lou, if you could send Mrs. Clark a letter or give her a call and just let her know that Holly Hall is is not owned by the town of Elkton, and neither is the Big Elk Mall, and that's private property, and that's not our role to go over there and put fences on other folks' property. And however else it may be addressed, but it kind of caught me off guard. I'm not sure exactly what she was talking about, but.
One thing we looked into before was through the animal control, because not everybody's fond of cats, and the ones that are, and they need to limit to and keep it where it's under control, because there's right now it's too many cats and dogs running around strays in the town and no one's doing anything about it. So we need to either contact animal control and see what we can do to limit this, because it has got out of hand the last couple of years, and not couple of years, many years. But it's just, we need to take a look at what is being provided for us in the town and seek any kind of support we can to limit the stray cats and dogs or animals per se.
Commissioner Van Reenen, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
You're loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming, and also thank the department heads over the last 2 weeks of just making time for me going in to talk to everybody. My main purpose was just for the department heads to tell me what their expectations of me, what do they need from me to make this a lot better and easier for everybody. And it's funny because when you ask, sometimes my dad always told me, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. I did. And a lot of departments had a lot of different ideas, and we'll dive into that a little bit. The first thing I want to talk about is a lot of people emailed me about the Wawa property or the Knights of Columbus property, and I did investigate that because what I was told was there was a well there that was going to be capped off. And that is true, and Lewis, please correct me if I'm wrong in what I've investigated here, that there is a well, and what was sent back to me is it used to be the Becker Home Corporation.
That's the property.
Okay, it was determined to be unsuitable as public supply well, and that Wawa will have the well closed and connect to the town water and sewer. Then the town installed well number 5 next to the water treatment plant for the purpose of supplementing or backup water in this area. So that well itself has been deemed unsuitable by whom?
Maryland Department of the Environment.
Okay. So for those that have asked me, that I know a couple of you are here tonight that asked me that question, and anybody that's going to be watching on the internet, there's the answer. One thing that I had noticed or I thought of was the senior center that's going to be coming in. We're going to have an issue as far as transportation, and Michelle and I talked about this earlier. The former mayor was a part of a particular task force. What was that, Michelle?
Well, Mamco is a representative from the town of Elkton.
Okay, and Gene Minner was the backup for that, is that right? And what I found was, I don't know if the town can take advantage of this, but it's called, let's see, JARC, J-A-R-C. It's Job Access and Reverse Commute Program, and what it is designed for is towns like us, low-income individuals or people trying to get back and forth to jobs, as far as helping out federally with funds. And from my understanding, there's no strings attached to this, and you would pass this along to Gene Minner to take a look at it. Maybe it could help out the town. Regressing just a little bit, the central purchasing, definitely. My background is definitely business. I'm looking for a couple different things to happen, and central purchasing. Mr. Lemon also sent us an article from the Wall Street Journal talking about a town out in the West that combined a lot of purchases throughout the county, their county, I think it's a great idea. I don't know what we have in place now with other towns as far as if we're going to be buying, like our Parks and Rec, Public Works buying oil. I'm sure we buy salt at bulk through the state contracts. But other things that we would buy, such as oil or paper towels or something like that, if we could combine with other towns to buy at a larger bulk and or discount. And that's just the beginning, so I'm definitely about a central purchasing agent. The solar panels I'm agreeing with. For voting, as far as the turnout for voting, one thing I had thought about was ethics board is appointed, is it not? Would it be something that, in other places, they actually vote on the ethics board? Is it something that we could actually add to our ballot that would bring in more voters also? Just an idea. I mean, we've always struggled, for when I'm looking back through the past elections, the count is down for one reason or another, but if we add more people to the ballot, it tends to bring out more people at the same time. So instead of the ethics board being appointed, maybe we could do it as far as a vote, or there's something else that we could add to the ballot also.
It sounds good. I mean, whatever you try to do to make people come out or whatever you want to create certainly can help, or should help.
Yeah. Louis, the water tower at the end of Muddy Lane.
Bell Hill Tower.
Thank you. I don't remember when we had to drain the water. It was filled with water after the renovation. We drained the water. I don't remember who was supposed to pay for that water.
The town pays for that water.
The town paid for the water.
Because it didn't meet the chlorine standard. I mean,
Right.
not the VOC standard.
No, I wouldn't, that's fine. Is this a common problem?
No.
It is not. Then, so it's nothing that should be negotiated into the contract, because I see that we're doing another water tower out at 279.
Next tower, 213 in Bellwood Road.
Okay?
Assuming we get the, we've applied to the Department of Housing and Community Development for a CDBG grant to do that project. We have not been notified that it's been awarded to us yet, probably not until latter part of July.
Is there?
That's our next project.
We've never had that issue before as far as draining the water towers, putting water back in or anything like that.
The initial, you have to initially drain it to actually do the work. But in the case with the Bell Hill Tower, the VOC was high and the MDE has to approve it to be put back online. And they suggested that we drain and refill the tower because of the high VOC content.
Why would that be high?
Paint used in the tower could be just residual VOCs from those.
Is it something that we should not hold the contractor accountable for?
Parts per million here, so it's very small.
I get it. The problem is that the cost is passed on to us, the end user, because now we have to refill it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Will you please tell people to talk into their microphone?
I got you,
We're
Mr.
hearing
Stork.
things back here.
I got you, Gary.
Is it
We're gonna-
me?
Is it over on that side you can't hear?
It's
Okay,
that
very
side
good.
here, the commissioners, you can understand.
Wait, very good.
This side's not.
All right. As far as filling it back up, isn't the contractor responsible for paying for that? Wouldn't they know that they should? Is there a cleaning agent? Is there something? I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around this. And being, unfortunately, I had a house built 10 years ago, and now the tile just fell off of the bathroom because they didn't do it right. I can't go back after the house builder, so I have to pay for it myself. My problem is if it was done, if that had happened in a short amount of time like this, we should go back after the contractor to be reimbursed for the water that we're paying for. Or am I just chasing my tail?
I don't know, I can't answer a question whether the contractor would be ultimately liable for refilling or paying for that cost until I review the contract and specifications. I'll have to look and get back to you.
Fair enough. Let's see, Ken's not here tonight. What is the current plan as far as 2019? I thought it was 2018. with 2019 of not relying on Artesian and/or any other company to make sure that we are sufficient, self-sufficient? Do we have a plan in place, or are we collectively looking for one?
The plan that we have in place is to maintain a contract with Artesian. The Maryland Department of the Environment requires us, under our permit, to have a backup water supply for our largest water supply, which is the water treatment plant. That's why we built that interconnect. We were required to have that by permit under the state.
Is there?
It's not something we can eliminate.
Okay.
We might be able to
I don't-
negotiate with Artesian
I
about
don't-
what that cost might be.
My understanding
but I don't
is
think we can eliminate it.
The reason we went into the contract is because somewhere in western Maryland, a town ran out of water, and all of a sudden, the state of Maryland required that towns are supposed to have X amount of gallons on reserve. Is that correct? That's how we got into this as far as talking to Artesian.
Not in reserve, but as a backup water supply. I don't know the origin of it. All I know is that the state is a regulatory agency that requires us, under our permit, to have it.
Okay.
The only way to eliminate that requirement would be to reverse the law
No, I'm
from the
not
General
saying that.
Assembly. And I don't think that.
No, I mean, yeah, no, I'm not looking.
Can I ask a question, Lou? If we found additional water sources, let's say at the end of the contract with Artesian, and if we found additional wells that would equal enough of backup, is that something that's possible or not possible?
I'm not a geologist, a hydrogeologist, but I'll give you the benefit of my experience with working with hydrogeologists. If you think of Elkton as being sitting over a cup of water, we have so many straws in that water, they allow us to draw only so much of that. If we wanted to have wells to supplement our supply, it would have to be outside the town, not inside the town. The state will not permit us to have wells outside the town unless we develop outside the town, expand our limits to incorporate areas where additional water supplies could be available. But you still have the issue of a backup water supply. If our treatment plant fails for any reason, whether it's a raw water supply, whether the equipment breaks down, whether there's a catastrophic failure, the town would not have sufficient water to serve its residents or its business community or for fire service. That's the request. That's why we have to have that backup water supply. That gives us a 1.5 million access from another aquifer. That's why we have that.
So there is a case, there is a possibility, and again, I'm the type of person I like to think outside the box.
It's coming now.
So you went to you would.
That's me trying to go. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
We were trying to turn your mic up and it's humming now.
Tell me.
Is it mine?
He just got to pull the mic closer to his mouth.
All right.
Sorry.
So the bottom line is there are avenues that we should explore. One of them is expanding the town limits. Expanding the town limits.
That's up to the board.
No, I'm not, I understand that, but the problem is a lot of times when anybody asks a question, I like to have multiple answers. So expanding the town could be one. I know that I've talked to a couple people that are much smarter than me about the different ponds that we have around here, and that's something I believe they're going to be talking in a workshop about, combining different things. That could be a possibility too. Am I misled on that?
The pond supply concept is more concept of a buffer for raw water rather than additional supply of water. In other words, instead of having a creek supply a race to a treatment plant, you intercede with a pond supply to add a larger amount of water, but you can't consume it. It's not appropriated anymore. It's just a larger supply that would buffer. I think Ken's idea was that if you had the raw water supply compromised in some way, you could catch it. They could catch it in time if you had this intervening buffer zone, so to speak. That's the theory. You wouldn't have more water. It's just simply you're appropriated by state permit. So no matter who you hook to, it's only that amount of water. The Maryland Department of Planning determines how much water the town would get based on a long-term 20-year projection. So they won't give you more water than that. So if we put in 10 wells, we still have the same amount of water. We just take less from each well. It will give you more water. That's because we don't have a population that was.
So really, the only thing that we can do is just expand the town. That would be
Expand the need for water too.
Expand west, because our city's got
Can't get water.
franchise.
Yeah, they're a franchise, you can't.
All right, so it's something that we definitely have to look at.
South, you can go south.
South, we can go, yeah.
All right. I want to touch on Parks and Rec a little bit, and I had watched past video of different things, and just like the mayor, Parks and Rec is very important to me. I coach softball, I've been involved with softball and many other sports, and as a young man, Parks and Rec was very important. What I've seen though in the budget is that Parks and Rec doesn't, I don't know if they have the opportunity, I still need to investigate it more, to actually become more of a revenue. And I do agree that Mayor Alt had said that they shouldn't be a huge revenue source, but they should at least break even. What I'd like to talk about in our next meetings is expanding Park and Rec and giving them the berth to do a lot of what the Alliance is doing. What the Alliance, I'd rather see the Alliance be more of the meat and potatoes that it was meant to be as far as bringing business into town and also the totality of town, not just one road. And taking some of that money and shifting it over to Parks and Recs for them to hold the parades, for them to hold the 5Ks. You have a beautiful restaurant downtown that I'm sure is, St. Patty's Day. They could coordinate something with a Green Day race, or again, that would be left up to the department head what to do. But this way, there would be revenue coming in that side, getting it closer to the black instead of the red. And it's something I'd really like to put on the table. With it, not only getting closer to the black, but also prepare for the future. I know Mr. Kleiner's been pushing hard for a community rec center, which I agree with. But it would also prepare the departments for that larger type of thing. This way, we're not going in blind on that.
Can we get, we'll invite Mary back maybe in the next available workshop meeting, because I'd like to find out a little bit more myself.
Yeah. It's not something that, immediate, next month or something like that, but I would think by the next budget year that there should be money allocated or pushed in one way or another over there to make it more advantageous for her to reach out. And then also with, I was talking to her, and one of the problems is that I see, and I've been done some investigating with Michelle also, is that it's very haphazard of what's going on in and around town. The Alliance has its own thing going on. The town has something going on. Parks and Rec has something going on. I don't know if Mike Devine can put something together for us, but there needs to be more cohesiveness between all of the departments of what's happening in and around town. The parade that I was in, and quite frankly, Jessica Price, she did a fantastic job. The problem is a lot of people that I was talking to, run up to the election, had no clue that there was a parade going on. And I believe that that's troubling, because I want to know more than what's going on in and around town. So if we could put that on a workshop, the next workshop. My understanding is workshops are only supposed to last approximately 2 hours, is that right? And we have one a month, is that right? Is it something that we could talk about as far as, and I got corrected the last time as far as adding, changing and stuff like that. But I feel that just one a month, and again, I run a business, and just talking once per month is not conducive to at least my business. I'm fresh here, I'm new here. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I would like to see us talk more about what's going on in and around town, keeping that open communication and the transparency that we've all talked about.
And I'd just like to add, I know that during the, going back to when I'd served before, that we did meet. We were meeting about every Wednesday, and it was because we had a lot of action going on. And over the last X amount of years, we're coming out of a recession. There probably really wasn't a tremendous amount to talk about, so it's probably cut back. But I think that that's something we could take a look at. Let's get Commissioner Jablonski's feedback on it, but
Absolutely.
I certainly don't have an issue. Every Wednesday I've got scheduled for the town of Elkton, so I'm certainly available.
And that brings up another thing as far as getting Mike involved as far as IT. I know I talked to Lewis and Mr. All, or Mayor All, about having a mayor's corner for an hour from 4 to 5 or something like that, or something where a lot of people can't attend the meetings. They do watch it on YouTube, which I've watched many times, but they'd still like to have some questions answered, or just to get it out there. But really, the social media, at least for me, is vital. I mean, it's unfortunately it's become a steadfast in my life and many of other people's lives. I mean, my phone unfortunately is sitting right next to me, and I know that I have everything on there, so I can talk quickly.
I'd like to make a comment based on
Sure.
your comments. We stopped videotaping, I guess not taping, videoing the workshop some time ago, and I would recommend, based on
Absolutely.
that they be part of.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any question with Team Elkton wanting to be out there.
That's right.
People can tune into YouTube and.
Listen, we got some good-looking guys up here.
That's right. I mean, you gotta capitalize on that.
Can we do that for the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Do we have to make a motion?
It's done now, but we'll do it from
It's
now
done.
on.
All right, I like that.
Well, we agreed on that, go back to that.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it
Yeah, we
last
did.
meeting.
Okay, all right. Chief Donald, congratulations again.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with you, and I appreciated the time that you spent with me the other day. It put me behind, but I didn't mind. I apologize to everybody behind us. I looked at the budget, and there's a couple things I need your help with. And unfortunately, I am a numbers person, and unfortunately, I'm in the car business also. I saw that you put in for 4 vehicles, or 6 vehicles, and then the budget gave you 4. I have to ask a direct question. Did you need 6? Or did you overestimate just to get the 4? And I ask that because I deal with people at work all the time where they ask for more because they only need that many.
Combination, but we could have used 6. We're looking at getting rid of some of our higher mileage vehicles.
Okay.
But we can certainly live with 4.
I want to talk about this with the board also. What I did is I looked at what you have now. You currently have the 06 Taurus, and I'm assuming that you want to replace them and say that Taurus is also. So I really looked at this, and I'm assuming that these vehicles aren't being used for high-speed chases or for patrol cars.
Right.
The new one is the Ford Fusion is the same dimensions as an 06 Taurus, but what I've been able to find is it costs about $5,000 less than the Taurus. And I have everything. I'll give it to you afterwards. The hip dimension, the head dimension, everything is the same as the 06 Taurus. And saving that $5,000, we could do one of 2 things. We could keep the approximately $20,000, keep it in the budget for something else, or you could buy another car if you really need one. Because most of them that I've been able to find, and I'm assuming that going through the state bid again, is right around the $17,000 mark is what you could buy one for off a state bid before we put our equipment in. And we'd have to put the equipment in either one of them. So that's kind of a hard cost that's associated with either one of them. And I'm assuming that everything can be transferred over anyhow.
But most of the equipment can, yes. But now you're saying you're looking at the Taurus?
No, well, I compared the 06 Taurus of what you have now. And forgive me, I went and looked at the VIN numbers. And then you had the 2014 Ford Fusion. And actually the Taurus, the 06 Taurus has less horsepower. It gets less miles to the gallon. Actually, the 4-cylinder Ford Fusion has looks about 40 more horsepower, almost 50 more horsepower. It's the same interior size, and it gets better gas mileage. So I just think it's a better fit.
Right. But what we wound up going with 4-wheel drive vehicles. So we wound up getting Fords.
Oh, Nobody told me about that. They said that you were replacing the Ford Taurus.
Yeah,
Well, we are replacing cars.
What the problem is, in the wintertime, it gets shut down if you have a bad snowstorm. So they went to four-wheel drive, right? That's what I'm saying, they're like a
Yes.
Ford Escape, they don't call it that, it's a Ford Escape.
What type of car is it?
Try to pull the mic up closer to your face, please.
A Ford
Take the
Escape.
mic out of the stand, please. Take the mic out of the stand and talk. Yeah, just- and talk into the
They're
mic.
Explorers.
I didn't know.
Is the button on?
Ford
Okay,
Explorers
talking to the
is what
mic.
we got. And the reason that we
And
went with
volume,
four-wheel
and mic
drive,
needs to be raised.
we don't have any emergency vehicles outfitted with any kind of emergency equipment, emergency radio, emergency lighting to get us around in any serious weather conditions, whether it be snowstorms, flooding. And we wind up putting our folks out there in just a plain Jane vehicle that we're borrowing from either Public Works or Planning and Zoning, because they have four-wheel drives.
All right. My apologies. I thought they were supposed to be, it was in the budget as Taurus is what I saw, wasn't it? I don't have the budget with me. I let them know.
Not in the budget, just the document, doesn't reference what vehicle, you probably were looking at the work papers.
Yes.
The budget, that was
Okay.
mentioned one time, but when the number was cut down, it was decided on the Explorers, if you're only looking at the four.
Thank you very much. I did see, and I did some investigating. In the budget, I saw an assistant police chief, and I questioned that. And I asked you about it also, and you had said that you had received the green light on it. And I reached out to a couple people to find out why it was in there, and what I was told, and please, current board members, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it actually wasn't in the original budget. I didn't understand what there was an original and then a second and a third budget. But in investigating, I didn't see in the last 10, 12 years, as far as the need for an assistant police chief. So I'm trying to figure out why we would add that cost at the top. And I know, Rob, that you had talked about a year ago decreasing public safety 20 to 25%.
I don't know that it ever came out of the budget. It's been in there for at least the last 2 years, 3 years. And
It's in the current year budget. You know,
It's in, I saw it, yeah.
right.
And I said something when you guys were voting on the budget. I said something to a couple of people that are sitting back there now. Because I questioned it, why it was needed instead of a couple other things.
I know it was in there last year, and I believe it was in the year before.
Okay.
The other town departments have a assistant. I think most of them do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And again, I'm looking at it from a business model, as we discussed that day, strictly a business model. And the business model that I see, that you have 3 extremely capable lieutenants. And then I investigated a little bit further with some help. And I found that there's, and I think I reiterated with you just to make sure, that there's about 18 supervisors for about 21 Indians. I could be wrong. I could be off by 1 or 2. But that's the way that I saw the breakdown. My concern is if you truly need an assistant police chief, then I think that we should definitely look at it. But I would have to question, how busy are you that you would need that when you have 3 lieutenants? And then what we're going to do is, I'm assuming the budget would say somewhere around 80,000, thereabouts, 80 to 85 is what I'm calculating. Then you would pull everybody up. So then we're spending that money where we should actually be spending that money more towards the bottom, in my opinion, be it a cadet program, be it something than something at the top. Because what I see now is and I'm looking at the Army also, and I'm just, the way they structure their squads, their platoons and everything else, with the chain of command. So it's, I just don't like the idea of spending that money when we should be spending that money more towards the bottom. Thoughts?
Well, I think it was voted on and approved by the previous board, and I absolutely hear your concerns about that, and it's something I'll take a look at and revisit. I had some conversations with the chief about trying to remove the overtime on the some of the staff, where we were looking at the 84-hour work week and trying to manage it to an 80. But it was voted on and approved unless the board wants to move forward with budget amendments at a future date. It's kind of where it's at. We've already approved them to move forward with this plan, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't be supportive of any changes, but it's the budget was prior to you and I, and
Absolutely agree. It doesn't mean that we can't make changes. or
Yes.
We can't just.
I'd like to make a comment to that. I work with a company that works 4 shifts, and what they say 4 shifts, day work, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, and a weekend shift. In order to maintain the business, to make it capable to run an 8-hour shift without running overtime, we had to fill in another shift with 5 shifts in order to cover that, so that we wouldn't have to work overtime. Now, hear me out on this. The reason for it is we still want to maintain the business, keep the production where it is, and then at the same time not work overtime. But we're asking for more police protection, more police visibility, but we're still trying to utilize what we have in the office now and work these other shifts without overtime. And it's impossible if you're inside the office trying to work those hours, 8 hours without 8 hours worth of sleep. You have to pay overtime. The only thing I can say is, if you're going to run a 3 shift operation, you're going to need 4 shifts to cover it for overtime. That's my point I'm making. I've been involved with that for 16, 17 years.
I'm sorry that I didn't understand.
Okay? If I start all over again, I'm working with a company that
I understand that.
runs 4
Where does
shifts.
the assistant police chief come into play on that, is my question.
I think
That's
when-
from the structure down from, and if you want to sit down and talk about it, I have no clue the structure with the police department, because that is not my department to try to structure anyone down. The thing is, you're asking questions. I'm not trying to say it's wrong or right.
Commissioner, you're fine. You're fine.
The thing is, I'm just telling you about covering positions and time without overtime. That's my point I'm making.
Okay.
You know, I've certainly served on this board a long time, and there's always been a structure with the police department. Even now, I guess he's assuming what the former chief had, and I think we need to sit down with him as a group and find out exactly what's what, because I think it's not an unfair question to him. I think that was something that was there when he went in, and something in the budget that we need to look at, because certainly you're saying a lot of things that I think is correct. As far as the overtime bit, there's certainly a lot of that, but we as a board need to sit down and talk with the new chief and figure out his hierarchy, how he's going to structure things, and you know what we can afford as far as the budget goes.
I'd say, to kind of answer it, maybe we can, you know, once again, we're going to do another workshop. We're going to schedule, Matt, can we schedule you in, maybe
Yeah.
the same time we do Mary? And I'd like to understand it more myself.
Yeah. And
I think-
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of questions that I have just talking to Newark Police Department, talking to Hackney Grace Police Department, Bel Air Police Department. And again, these are never, ever, anybody that's worked with me or really knows me, these are never personal attacks. These are all business questions. And we've had dinner and Commissioner Gibbons, I mean, he understands, because him and I have talked pretty bluntly. One of the things I'd like to see is actually, if you could, with speaking to the overtime, there used to be a thing that the police department had, and I had talked to a former police officer, and I cannot remember what it's called, but it was when somebody came in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then 2 o'clock at night, I believe, is when they left. And I could have the times wrong. It could be like 2 p.m. to midnight, something like that. But what it did is the police officers that had calls right before they got off at, say, 8 o'clock, they would have to go out, and then we're paying them overtime. Instead, those calls would be pushed off to that other, and again, I can't remember what it is. I have to reach out to him, and there was a specific name for that. And that
Overlap shift.
Okay. He called it something else. It wasn't that. I would remember something that simple. But if, that's something I think that we should take a look at also. A lot of people have talked to me about a bike patrol, and I know that I've seen it 4 or 5 years ago when I was down at Little League Parks and such. I'd like to see that revisited. I'd like to see police officers walking neighborhoods, if that's in there also. The overtime is huge. One of the things that if we could start something down at an entry level, we wouldn't have to worry about paying the police department or paying police not to police, and instead they're doing parades. It's nice to see everybody out there, but it would be nice to see somebody that's being paid at an entry level at $10 an hour or something like that, instead of having police that should be out there policing. And I'm sure they would want to be policing too than standing around at a barricade. Any of these points wrong? Please tell me if they are. I'm just looking at them again from a bird's eye view, trying to figure out where we can put this budget. And I do agree with Mayor Alt when he made the comment of roughly 20 to 25%. I think that we can achieve at least 15 moving forward by working smarter. We don't have to work necessarily harder, but I think that we can work smarter than what we are right now.
Well, we do have bike patrol, and we do utilize foot patrol. Overtime's it's a big thing, but a lot of our overtime is spent by officers in court, and there's really not a way around it. We don't have a lot of usage of overtime at end or beginning of shift.
Do you have a computer program that would be able to break down exactly where the overtime is?
Not by hour. I mean, I can share with you what we're spending the overtime on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my understanding is that there's been more patrols added. Is that right? Or I believe it's called. Has there been saturation as far as more units going out or anything like that?
Yeah, presently we're doing saturation patrols in some of our higher crime areas.
All right, and we're unfortunately we're paying overtime for that, right?
But it's reimbursed overtime through an initiative called Safe Streets.
Awesome. Okay. You and I definitely differed on the Hollingsworth Manor substation. Now I understand that today there was no, it was last night.
Early this morning.
Is that what it was? Early this morning there was a shooting such. I really think that we need to look at that. And the only reason that I bring this up, and again, walking around town for months, talking to people, that people have been involved with law enforcement for years. Back in the 90s, you guys had a thing on Booth Street that, let's see, a sergeant? Oh, no. Now, I believe she's a Lieutenant Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Used to handle all that. And also you had DARE officers back then. Why couldn't we do something like that at Hollingsworth Manor, Walnut Hill, down actually right around the road here? Why can't we also look into that, is what I'm saying. And again, I'm trying to put everything on the
It
table.
all depends on how much money the town's willing to spend for substations. I mean, if 1, 2, 3, you know, if you want us to start looking at how much it's going to cost, the reason that I'm a little adverse to this idea is that you were going to say there's going to be a substation there, but what's going to be there? We're not going to have police officers in the substation.
Well, there's actually grants. There's community block grants that we can apply for. Now, I know how grants work, and the last thing I would want is any extra strings attached. I know that we hired a couple police officers underneath a grant, and then we pick up the legacy cost of that. Definitely, I'm looking for return on investment, and one of the returns on investment that I'm looking at is property values. That if we can increase property values, especially in troubled neighborhoods, that actually helps the town. So really, in the legacy cost of it, and again, I'd have to sit down and work everything out. I think that we would actually be making more money than what it is right now, because we have a lot of people going down there. And the saturation patrol, talking to some other outside agencies, is a good idea, but it is again, it's a Band-Aid on a much larger problem. It's much like what's going on right now in Iraq, where all of a sudden we're pulling out and things are coming back. As soon as the police department pulls out, all of a sudden they come back. But again, I would like to put everything on the table. Sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
One comment I would like to say about the substation. It doesn't matter where you put a substation. The crime's going to probably limit from that little building sitting there and go someplace else, another street over. We need to focus on protecting the town of Elkton, not just one or two neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
57 years I've been living here, and we talk about Booth Street and Hollingsworth Manor. Hollingsworth Manor, there's a lot of good people out in Hollingsworth Manor. The trouble's going to be all through town, not just in one spot. What we need to do is find a way to have more police eyes in the area, more patrol cars going through an area frequently instead of a building sitting there. What I'm saying is we need to put more police cars out on the streets, passing through the neighborhood, maybe every other hour or something, and not just in one spot. That's a comment I'm making. Because when we focus on certain streets, that's not doing anything for the rest of the areas in the town. We want to try to get more police visibility in the town of Elkton, not just one area or two areas.
No, I absolutely agree with you. There's one thing I think that the community needs to get more involved also. In my neighborhood, I know that I've asked a homeless person to leave a couple different times, that he was on private property. I would like to see, and my neighborhood's not bad, but I would like to see a police officer get out and just walk the streets and get to know the neighbors, that's all.
I think what we need to do is,
Sail and talk.
yeah, I think we've had a chief sworn in for an hour and 10 minutes, and
Right.
I think that I'd love to have him give us the game plan, because I can tell you, I'm not sure any of us are aware of what your game plan is at this point, and I'd love to have you share with us as much as you can, because we don't want to let the whole strategy out to everyone, but I think it's something that we could have you in to discuss. You good with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll just share with you that during 2013, we were able to see a reduction in crime by almost 15%. That comes from the efforts of the men and women of the police department. It comes from doing things like saturation patrols. It comes from proactive patrols, high visibility. Our folks have done a great job. And I just briefly share with you, some of the things that I do want to do are increase foot patrols and increase our visibility in the community. But I certainly don't want to go tinkering. I've been around for 25 years. I've been through a whole lot of chiefs of police, and I've seen a whole lot of stuff go on in the police department where chiefs come in and fix things that aren't broken, and change things for the sake of change. Sometimes that has a very adverse effect on the organization. I want to continue on doing what is right and practicing some of the principles that I learned from some of our past chiefs, and most notably Chief Ryan.
Thank you.
Couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. And again, none of this is ever personal. It's just, you see something that's broke, I have a tendency to want to fix it, and in my primary position, that's what I do.
Right.
And I constantly push people to think outside the box. So please forgive me if I said something wrong or I insinuated anything different other than that.
No.
I just don't think that the extra money, especially at the top, that we should be paying when we could be doing more things at the bottom, as you suggested, as Commissioner Piner suggested also. The last thing I want to end with is something that I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be bringing up or not. And I encourage, and the reason I want to bring it up is no names will be mentioned, and I encourage anybody else that decides to talk tonight, please, no names being mentioned here. But there was a situation last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, excuse me, that I brought to people on and in around town, as far as what was considered as improprieties, and the decision was to let it go. I sent out email that I'm uncomfortable with that. So the constituents that are here that want to talk to that, again, I I know that the board will be talking, and I know that there's things going on, but I encourage you to limit what you're talking about as far as no names. But as far as the let it go philosophy, I have to say that I still am extremely uncomfortable with it, especially after going through today's legal stuff. I didn't like it. I sat there uncomfortably. I have reached out to legal counsel, and I got mixed messages on the first one from different people. On the second issue, as far as the accountability on that, everybody but one has told me that it was wrong. Now, we all ran on accountability, and without accountability, there's not credibility. And I'd encourage us all to get together and discuss this. And again, it's only because of the accountability that we're held to task on with the oath that we all took. And again, I don't want to end on that type of note, but unfortunately I have to, because I know that there's people here that wanted to talk. So I just
I'm confused. I mean, I don't know what you're saying. I mean, I'm an educator. I know you're going around the pie. Say what you got to say. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And there really isn't. And if you want me to kind of lay the groundwork, I'm happy to.
Go ahead.
But I'd like to know, as you're stating this, I want to know who you spoke to with counsel. I'd like to know who you spoke to at the Maryland State Police Department. I'd like to know some names, not that I talked to someone. You need to share with us who you spoke to, so we can have some.
I won't do that.
Then I feel it's addressed.
He'll do it all, he'll do it close meeting.
Very good.
Excuse me?
Did somebody say something over there?
I said, I don't think it should be open session. I think it should be done in closed session if you're gonna do anything
Thank you.
that pertains to any person that's an employee of the town.
And that's why I didn't want any names mentioned.
I understand
First of
that.
all, it's not right, and I don't want to step on any rules or anything like that. So
Did everybody hear that?
can we?
All right.
Thank you.
That's not necessary either, Mrs. Ward.
Come on now. Let's no
That's not
more
necessary.
discussion.
So how do we do a closed session? Is it after today?
Yeah, we
I don't
can.
agree with that.
We can go. We can move forward to a closed session after we do public comment, and then we don't have to reconvene if you'd like to do that today about personnel. I'm happy to discuss that.
There's always closed session, but what's been our practice, if we know that we have a closed session, we want one beforehand, we always let each board member know, but it's fine to do it right now as well.
I had no idea it was supposed to be a closed session.
Well, let's. Anything else you want to address, Commissioner? Okay, now this is the time of the meeting that we open up the floor to the public. And I have a list of who would like to speak tonight, and I'm sure that there's probably some folks that didn't sign the list, but you're certainly welcome to speak after I address the first amount of people here. First on the list, I got Mr. Dwight Hare. If you'd like to come up, you're on the list to talk.
I just got a couple words. Maybe congratulate.
Mr. Dwight Hare of 142 West Main Street.
There you go.
Do you want to talk in the mic?
I just want to say a few words in congratulation of the new mayor and commissioners, and particularly the colonel over here. Congratulate him. I've watched him practice for a long time, and he's a true leader. One other thing I want to mention, you got a new code enforcer, which I really like. I think it's Jeff Holder, his name. And I wanted to let Lou George know, I want him to send a big bill to somebody tomorrow. I saw the town mowing about 4 acres of land today that hadn't been mowed all year that belonged to MBRS Bank on Main Street, Elkton, right across from the American Legion. And I think they should have a bill sent to them tomorrow, maybe even signed by the mayor, saying, you owe me about $400. I watched the town mow that today. Took them 3 hours, two employees, and I applaud the code enforcer for doing that. One last thing, I shouldn't say this. You guys are all talking about things tonight that should be in closed work sessions. I'm amazed. I come to all these town meetings. I have a lot of leadership background. You're into areas that need to be in the mayor. The lawyer's right. You're into stuff that's really closed session work stuff. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hare.
Thank you, Dwight.
Okay, next on the list we have Kelly Lloyd of 100 Coventry Court.
I'll wait, thank you.
Okay.
You can get up yet.
Very
Kelly,
good,
are you-
thank you.
Are you nervous?
Yeah, I am.
Everybody clap for Kelly and make her come up here. Go ahead, please.
I will have a
But
little bit.
I want to make like you're
Okay,
on
very good.
American Talent.
I'd like to invite Mr. Gary Stork of 100 Lincoln Avenue.
Sorry, Norman, but that was not necessary. I mean, when you're a lawyer, where you are.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And Commissioner. I welcome all the new ones, welcome all the old ones.
Yes, sir.
Same thing with this panel over here. Chief, it was pleasant to meet you and the wives and daughters and one son, right?
Yes, sir.
Got that right.
Thank you.
I have a couple things, let me make sure I abide by the rules. I would like to know, as a citizen, when you start talking about money and budgets and all this, yeah, that's our tax dollars,
I agree.
right? You talked about a new chief here tonight. I've heard a lot of scuttlebutt, what's going on, you know. Like you say, this is a day 11, day 1 so far. But overtime wise with the police department, as of 3 weeks ago, was $156,000 of taxpayer money. It come to $3,615 per man, not including the top staff. Hey, we really need to look at that. Really. Now, their budget for, if I'm correct, for $250-some thousand overtime. Look, the police department needs overtime, but are we getting the benefit out of it? I think the police department, are you accredited? That's something else. Are you actually accredited to the FBI, all of you, or the department is?
No, we're not accredited.
I think it'd be worthwhile to this panel up here to bring in the FBI, see where they can point the weak points. Give a good hand to the chief here. You might find it be very helpful, and maybe not as many questions from the public.
Very good.
I think that'll cost around $9,000 to $10,000. The biggest thing that's been bothering me is I have 2 contractors. One's addendum, and the other one is Southfields. And there's an addendum to Southfields. What is the town's thing? Is this document still legal, non-legal, or is anything happening to it? We signed this document in July 18th, 2006. Is there any action? Is it good or is it wrong? You talked about water. We got close to $3,000 to $4,000, $100,000 out here with a pipeline that we haven't took an ounce of water out of the ground.
And if I can interrupt you real quick, and I just want to get educated on exactly what you're talking about. I'm assuming this is the wells that were dug off of,
He's referring to Bruce Snyder's property.
okay,
It's Gray Hill Development Company or Southside LLC, I think.
It is, according to this, it's known as completely Southside now.
It's Southside, you're like a group. The town installed several wells out there. One is well number 4 that's permitted. However, the town's agreement is that the developer wouldn't develop that well. I mean, if the well's developed, there's no well house pump stream there. After the town approved, I think, not less than 2,600 units, and the town hasn't done that yet.
so
PUD project.
so I guess the answer to Mr. Soar's question.
valid, right?
Still valid.
Okay, then if it's still valid, when are they going to construction of the 1 million gallon water tank?
After that,
So how many years have taken part since where are we at right now, Mr. George?
we're nowhere.
Well, because it's a stale, wait a minute. this is a stalemate. But what about our money out there?
I've
What
already
are-
told over that. It's an agreement by the board to do that.
I'm not just pointing at this, I'm pointing at everybody. Okay, so what are we gonna do, sit on for another 25 years?
Well, I think that's up to this board right here, but I appreciate you bringing that in because I will look at that and I'll get with the group and we're going to decide how we can move forward, if we can move forward with this project. I can assure you that.
Well, that's my concern.
Yep.
And I don't see no action, and I feel the town is being held hostage there, but I also realize that they can't produce that well out there. And 625,000 gallons, did we make that quota?
No.
Okay, how much were we short? Do you I can't remember, Lou, that's why I'm gonna say.
I'm sorry?
487, wasn't
Very little term. I don't know.
Well, because see, we were told, and now we have a new player in the field,
Yep.
and that's the engineering department from the Corps of Engineers saying you can only draw so much out of an aquifer.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it up because I will absolutely have you educate.
Well, number 48 is already permitted. It's a permitted well. In other words, if we took someone else and pump out there and hook the system, we could start using that water.
Okay.
So it's a permitted by MGE. He asked me the number of gallons. I don't recall.
Have we received a 1 acre property from those people? Okay, there's no, that's all in this statement here.
Yeah, I think
They're
that's
supposed to give us an acre of property, and I'm talking about the total development out there, 2,500 homes. And as you know, that passed prior, and now they're all C3, so he can build anything out there he wants to, but I just don't think we're getting our proper attention.
Well, I can promise you we'll look into it. I know DJ's probably never looked at that agreement, and I've never seen the agreement. I've always heard about the agreement. But I promise you, I will look into it, and we'll have the rest of the team here look into it, and we'll have you an answer by next meeting.
I have one other question that bothers me. The Elkton Alliance has done a fairly decent job downtown. But let's face some facts here. They've been at it 17 years. Let's stop and think about that. That is 14 more years. And does the board get a statement from them how they spend their money or anything? Does this board, have you seen a statement?
I have not seen a statement, but I can promise you I'll be asking for that statement.
I really think that we should be responsible for all monies. And we talk about budget and stuff, and I got a couple other questions here. What, and this is for Mr. Repo, I'm not gonna leave you alone. How much money do you get back from these budgets?
How much money do we get back?
You heard me.
Well, what do you mean do we get back?
All right, say he has I'm just pointing at the chief, say he has $100,000 thing. He don't spend that $100,000.
Right,
Where's that money go?
goes back into the general fund.
Okay, do you have a record of how much that comes back to you in the general fund?
Well, absolutely.
All right.
I can actually tell you what our general fund is.
I don't want to know the general fund. I want to know what monies are accounted for when they come back. And I'm talking about if there's 100,000, and you're talking about a purchasing agency. Say Mr. George goes up to Oxford and buy 5 lawnmowers, right?
Yep.
Okay, he gets one free.
No, well, I wouldn't think.
No, I'm just, these are, I know you could use one, I could too all the time. But you understand what I'm saying? I like to have accountability. I like to have accountability for the money that's turned back in. Police department, $23,000 worth of ammunition a year in the arms room. Before that, when I sat on the board, it was 27. That's a lot of ammunition. Whether it's arms, shotguns, or anything. For 4 years, before you become chief, that's, let's see, 25, that's $100,000. Man, that's a lot of ammunition.
Yep.
These are points that I think really need to be looked at. If you want to get control of things, as you've all been saying, I think you really should be digging. One thing would be accreditation for the police department. Thank God I've seen police officers downtown. I think that's something that we need, and thank God we have them. I know I've seen the bike patrol one time. But we need it all the time, not just one day a week, not 2 days a week. We need it to concentrate on. And one thing about the narcotics, these guys do a good job, and here's the problem. You take them to court and they're right before the law officer can fill the papers out. We need to look at that.
Yep.
And we need to go after these small people, because if you take care of the small people, the big people will leave if you push the heat on. Thank you for your time very much, everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, I'd like to invite Mr. Keith Thompson, 707 Elkton Boulevard.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, pleasure to be here this evening. Congratulations to the Chief. Chief does a nice job. He instituted the reverse 911 call center for us, and that worked out well on the last, fortunately it didn't turn out to be a flood, but it worked out very well.
Right.
Notifying the business owners. I just wanted to talk, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned about the sewer and water rates coming down. I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm all for that. What I would like to see, though, before you institute any kind of reductions in the rates on the sewer and water, I'd love to have the town do a infrastructure audit. I know if you've ever called Miss Utility, there's no mapping of any of the sewer and water lines, at least over in my development over in Elkton Heights. When they tore down the Four Corners Tavern, the excavator had to dig extra parking lot up to find where the sewer line was, because there's no mapping at all in the older neighborhoods around town. And you can see that on the, if you just drive Elkton Boulevard, you see the roads all torn up because they're looking for water mains and that kind of thing. So I would suggest that you might want to institute an infrastructure audit through KCI or somebody able to do that. The other thing would be for those of us who are on fixed income, who never even reached the max or the minimum of 9,000 gallons in a quarter. I'd rather see that reduced, and that would help us out, I think, tremendously. My wife and I, it's just the two of us and our dogs, and we use 5,000 or 6,000 gallons now. If I wanted to be mean about it and wasn't interested in conserving any water, I just watered the heck out of my lawn, and I had the best looking lawn in town, but we're not that way. So I would recommend that you maybe look at that as well. And that's all I had this evening. Thanks, fellas.
sir.
Keep
Yes,
up the
sir.
good work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And you know, kind of to address that, I think at one time, we had Macron doing a infrastructure mapping system many years ago, and I'm not sure wherever that went, or do we have it, or is it?
We have maps done by KCI. What Thompson's referring to, there are very old areas in town
Okay.
that we have no immediate knowledge of where they are, because there weren't maps that actually identified where services may have entered a lot.
Okay.
So sometimes they have to do what's called a little salt dig
Yep.
to find it. All the mains are identified under a GIS system.
Very good.
You know, the big stuff.
Thank you. Miss Andrea Slayton of One Wales Court, Elton.
Good evening.
Hi.
You've already sort of discussed what I'd like to have done is to have the speed humps. I live in Kensington Courts and on Biddeford Drive. It's like in a half circle. We have motorcyclists, cars that are loud and they speed. So I'm just suggesting maybe you have two of them that are angled.
Very good.
And I also agree with that gentleman about water sewer. My husband and I don't nearly reach that amount.
Well, thank you very much. I think is there anyone here in the neighborhood tonight from Kensington Courts that was going to talk about some trees? Good. Okay, we got, I can't read the last name, Robert from 21 MacArthur Way. Is he here?
Yes,
Yes, sir. I can't catch your last name on the...
Bernard.
Bernard, well, come on up and say something to...
I'll hold it for another time.
Okay, thank you. even though no one signed the paper from here on out, you're certainly welcome to come up and, Mayor Kraus, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Never
Please.
miss the opportunity to speak to.
There you go. Please give your address.
Absolutely, we'll give my address. James G. Kraus, 451 North Street, floor 1, Elkton, Maryland.
Thank you.
Just wanted to, first of all, great meeting. A little exciting, but, just everybody gets a chance. Like Mr. Harris said, Dwight, day one, or somebody, or Chief, it's day one for you, so just broaden your shoulders. If you need a few bigger shirts, I'll give them to you. But seriously, let me go back to a couple of points. Now, I just wanted to share some things because of past experience. The aquifer out behind the Swiss Inn, now known as Mike's Crab Shack, or what, everybody know what I'm talking about?
Mix, yep.
It's a well and a major aquifer that feeds the water system for our wells that we bought in the town of Elkton years ago. The NDE controls aquifers, okay? Right, Louis? And then correct me, please, if I say something wrong. I just wanted to try to bring this past history up, is that Artesian was given the rights to take the water to Delaware and use it for the people in Newcastle County from our aquifer. Our board at that time fought that in court. We did not prevail. The state overruled the town of Elkton and its rights, total rights to the aquifer. So that's one of the reasons why we have a suffering, and DJ, I especially mentioned this just to help, in other words, those were all out of town wells, by the way, at the time. So, it is just something to do. And I encourage you to look back into the records, the agreement with Mr. Snyder and that well out there. If it's 400, 300, it's some water that is available to serve, and I think the agreement is such to where the town, gets the benefit of it. There was an agreement, of course, for the standpipe, the water tower, whatever you want to call them, and that was that. Also, Mr. Snyder, I believe, had some, responsibility to that. But that agreement tells you all that. So getting familiarity with that would be helpful. I had something else, but because of my age, my tenure with the town, I forgot. So you're lucky, Rob.
Thank you.
But anyhow, thank you very much.
Anytime, Mayor.
Good luck to you all.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mayor,
Yes, sir. Come on up and state your name.
my name's, I can talk right here. My name's Kelvin Marwell. I live at 103 Whitehall Road. And me and my friend here is my neighbor. And I want to thank Mr. Piner for inviting us out to the meeting tonight. We'd like to know what's being done with so many of the homeless in town. I think it's leading to a lot of small crime. Me being a victim of a crime last week by a homeless person. They actually walked up my driveway, walked in my garage, and stole a bike while I was on my back deck cooking at my grill.
Wow.
So, I mean, why are we allowing them to have these camps in town and just roam all day? I mean, I work in Elkton, I live in Elkton, I'm all over these roads every day, and they're just everywhere. I know we have a bad drug problem in this town. A lot of towns do, but it seems like we have an overabundance of homeless. I went and stopped by a local restaurant one night, walked in, 3 people were bathing in the bathroom of the restaurant.
Wow.
It really disgusted me. I walked right out. I didn't want to eat there. Walked right out. So my friend here agrees with me. Something's got to, I mean, you said I live in a safe neighborhood. I do too, but they walk through it all the time.
Agreed.
And every opportunity they get to steal a bike, steal whatever, they're going to do it. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I appreciate that input, and I know that when we sit down with the chief, and chief, you know how I feel about the vagrants. We have to give them more tools. I think years ago the town of Elkton took out their loitering ordinances and out of their toolbox, and it was had to do with some prior litigation with some homeless, and I'm not up to date with that information yet at this point, but I've always said that if we can start to fill up the vacant buildings in our town, and I hate, I want to push the vagrants away. There's a difference, in my view, a little bit between a vagrant and a homeless person, and it's very touchy, of course, with this, very sensitive, and I've always felt that what I'm seeing, the more that I learn, is that a lot of the homeless either have some mental issues and/or drug abuse issues, and the vagrants are the ones that's coming up at taking your bicycle from you and asking for handouts at the Acme or Reddender's and in the corners ready to strike, per se. And I think that we're going to map that plan out. I'm committed to that. I know this board is committed to it. And I don't want you ever to come here and say something like that happened in the town of Elkton again. And I feel for you, and we got to make things like that so they don't happen. But we hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Litzenberg. I know Walnut Lane, but I don't know the address.
105.
105 Walnut Lane.
As I told you before, I probably didn't think I'd have anything to say tonight, but I have a couple things that might make a little sense. About your grass cutting, the clippings and so forth. If I remember correctly, Charlie, several years ago, didn't you talk to somebody in Haverty Grace about how they address their issue? Am I mistaken, or am I imagining this in my own
I did
age?
talk to somebody about that, right?
I think what they were told was that they will have a subcontractor come in, cut the grass, the town will pay them, then the town charges the homeowner, and if the homeowner doesn't pay, they put a lien on the property. They get their money one way or another.
Yes.
It might be an idea. I'm pretty sure you brought that.
And I actually think we're doing that now. I think that but the Public Works is cutting the grass, and they're then we're putting a lien on the house. Is that correct? The issue that I have is that it's taking away our guys from doing whatever, and thank you. I think that we could sub that work out.
Exactly right. And this is for the Public Works and the chief on the graduation night. That worked out very well.
Yeah.
Gilpin Avenue, we didn't have one car parked on Gilpin Avenue.
Right.
The other end of the street they did, but where I am, there was not one car parked. Because evidently they thought there was no parking on both sides.
Great.
But it worked out well.
We were happy.
Yeah, thank you. I say it didn't affect me. You know, my reason didn't affect me, but affected some of my neighbors. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Talking about locating.
Your time's up, sir.
I'm changing my subject. You mentioned locating sewer lines and so forth. Well, can't your public works director, being a civil engineer, do that rather than putting KCI involved in everything that the public works does?
I think you hit it right on the head. When I spoke to Dan at Public Works, he said, he stated to me that there's quite a few projects that he could move forward on without having the involvement of KCI, and one of them was even like road restoration that we're kind of working on now. I know there's probably a little technical that maybe he can't sign off on per se, but I think as we're moving forward, absolutely, he was hired to do these things, and I think he's not here tonight, so I really don't want to. I want to put him kind of on the spot, but I think moving forward, when we meet with Dan, I want it to be in an open meeting, and so we can all get the understanding of what he can bring to the table. Because I think he could be a valuable resource to us.
That's what he was hired for.
Yes.
Getting back to the South Field or whatever it may be, that was originally a PUD, if I'm not mistaken. Now that the comprehensive plan changed everything to all R3, does that rescind the PUD?
That's a good question.
Doesn't that rescind that contract that they're supposed to build so many houses? What was it, Jimmy? How many houses were they supposed to build out there?
2750 at one.
2750, and nothing's been done.
Yeah, that is renewed to 2,500.
2,500.
And I guess I'll look over at Lewis and ask, I think the town board voted that it is a PUD.
You know, when the zoning ordinance was recently passed, the provisions that allow a PUD development were not included. So the new PUD regulations must be finished and developed by the Planning Commission, recommended to the board for adoption. So as of this point in time, he can't develop a PUD there.
Okay.
Because it was all changed to R3.
It's R3.
Yes.
It's kind of amazing how that happened.
Getting back to the homeless, I think if you check with Josh Brown, talked to him several years ago about the homeless issue in town, and he had a college roommate that was from a town in New Jersey. They addressed the issue, they had the ordinances, it was given to the ex-mayor, and nothing was done about it. Josh might be able to help you there.
Thank you. I'll reach out to Josh.
That's really all I had to say. Oh, one thing you guys were talking about, you good-looking guys up there, when you do you better put something on your heads because they shine too much.
I hear you. Thank you.
Just kiddingly.
Would anyone else like to say anything this evening? And one commitment I will make, our man that's in charge of all the microphones, with his expertise, is going to take care of that for us within the next month. Can you handle that, Earl?
Can you handle it?
We're going to make it a lot better for you. What we're going to do is we are going to call a closed meeting to discuss personnel, and we will not reconvene. So we're going to ask everyone in the audience to exit the room as soon as we call this meeting. So I'd like to, do we have a motion to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom the town has jurisdiction of?
In other words, it's going to be personnel.
Personnel. All right. We have a motion. Do we have it?
I'll second.
Second.
Who's the motion made?
I'll make the motion.
And I'm second.
Second. Okay. Motion by Van.
I'll third.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'll let Michelle handle the rest of that. And
When do we get the results of your findings,
in regards to,
your closed meeting?
actually with personnel, we can't discuss that out.
Well, if there's malfeasance or something like that that's going on,
Yes.
we as your employers, or everybody in the town,
And can you give me your name and address so I can have it?
Stephen Salento, 3 Aurora Court.
Thank you.
We employ you people.
Yes, absolutely.
You answer to us. So I want answers. If
Very
there's
good.
something going on.
Very good. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.